Admiral Alara Voss stood alone on the hovering platform that carried her into the vast chamber of the Galactic Council. The massive dome-shaped room stretched nearly a mile across, with rising tiers of seats that accommodated representatives from over 500 worlds. Crystalline lights floated in the air, casting an eerie blue glow across the chamber. The room hummed with the low murmur of translator devices as alien delegates whispered among themselves. "Human representative approaching," announced a booming voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Alara fought to keep her face neutral as the platform glided toward the central speaking area. She had trained her whole life for diplomatic missions, but nothing had prepared her for this. The Council had summoned Earth's representative with unprecedented urgency. Around her, the alien faces watched with a mixture of curiosity and something else. Was it fear? Disgust? The 7-foot-tall Malurians with their bulbous eyes tracked her movement. The gaseous Zith, contained in their transparent environmental suits, pulsed with changing colors. The insectoid Jex representatives clicked their mandibles nervously. The platform locked into place at the center of the chamber. Directly ahead, elevated above the other delegates, sat the High Council, the 7 eldest species who had founded the interstellar governing body over 15,000 years ago. High Arbiter Caltix, a mantis-like being standing nearly 15 feet tall, leaned forward. His opalescent eyes reflected the chamber's light as he studied the human. "Admiral Voss," he said, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "You stand before the Galactic Council as Earth's appointed representative. Do you understand the gravity of today's proceedings?" Alara stood straighter. "I do, High Arbiter." "The Council has monitored your species since your first crude attempts at space travel," continued Caltix. "For 80 years, humanity has been granted provisional membership in our galactic community. During this period, we expected compliance and gratitude." A murmur rippled through the assembled delegates. Instead, Caltix's voice grew sharper. "Your species has repeatedly pushed boundaries, questioned established protocols, and now, most alarmingly, developed technology that threatens the very stability of our united worlds." Massive holographic displays appeared around the chamber, showing footage of Earth ships performing impossible maneuvers, disappearing from one location and instantly reappearing thousands of light-years away. "Quantum displacement technology," said another council member, Delegate Oru, a shimmering cloud of particles contained within an ornate mechanical shell. "A technology deemed too dangerous for development by Council Decree 5 millennia ago." Alara remained calm despite the accusation. "The Treaty of Accession that brought Earth into the galactic community guaranteed our right to independent research. The quantum displacement drive was developed by Earth scientists within our sovereign territory. Your species has been members for less than a century," hissed Caltix. "Yet you've already rewritten Council understanding of gravitational mechanics, neural interfacing, and now spatial displacement, technology that took other species thousands of years to develop, if they were ever permitted to develop it at all." The chamber darkened as a massive projection appeared overhead, the Treaty of Accession that had brought humanity into the galactic community. Specific clauses illuminated in angry red. "The Council hereby revokes Earth's research autonomy," announced Caltix. "All quantum laboratories will be placed under Council oversight. All research data will be surrendered. All prototype vessels will be decommissioned." Alara felt her heart pounding but kept her expression neutral. This wasn't regulation, it was subjugation. "And if we refuse?" she asked, her voice quiet but carrying throughout the chamber. The council members exchanged glances before Caltix responded. "Then Earth will face immediate economic sanctions, followed by a full quarantine blockade. Your colonies will be isolated, your outposts reclaimed." "I'll need to consult with Earth Central," Alara replied steadily. "You have 24 galactic standard hours to deliver humanity's compliance," Caltix concluded, bringing down his ceremonial staff with a resounding crack that echoed through the chamber. "This session is adjourned." As the platform began to move backward, taking her away from the central area, Alara noticed something unusual. The Tiraxan delegation, normally silent observers, were watching her with unexpected intensity. Their Ambassador Velen Rai caught her eye briefly, giving an almost imperceptible nod. Outside the chamber, her aide, Lieutenant Marcus Braun, fell into step beside her. His face was pale. "They're scared," he whispered. Alara nodded slowly. "They should be." The diplomatic shuttle back to the Earth Embassy was silent. Once inside the secure communication room, Alara activated the quantum link to Earth Central, making sure all security protocols were engaged. She didn't trust the Council not to be listening. "Madam President," she began when the face of Earth's leader appeared on screen. "The Council has made their move, just as we predicted." President Diana Wells's expression hardened. "Then we proceed as planned. How much time do we have?" "Officially 24 hours to respond, but based on deep space monitoring, their fleet is already mobilizing. I suspect they never expected compliance, just a pretext." "And our allies?" The Tyrexans signaled their support. "I suspect others will follow when the time comes." President Wells nodded grimly. 80 years we've played by their rules, shared our advances, contributed to their economy, defended their borders, and now they show their true faces." She sighed heavily. "Initiate protocol exodus, Admiral. Authorization code Wells Alpha 770. "Protocol exodus confirmed," Alara replied, feeling the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. Lieutenant Braun looked between them, his expression grim. "It's really happening then," Alara nodded. "The galaxy is about to learn that humans don't respond well to ultimatums." Back in her quarters, Alara stood at the window overlooking the Council capital city, a sprawling metropolis of impossible architecture built over thousands of years by hundreds of species. Tomorrow, she would return to that chamber and deliver humanity's answer. And nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. Admiral Alara Voss moved silently through the shadowy maintenance tunnels beneath Europa Station, the dim emergency lighting casting long shadows on the metal walls. The meeting location had been chosen carefully, an abandoned section of the station where surveillance was minimal. Behind her, Lieutenant Braun kept watch, his hand never far from his concealed weapon. "Are you sure we can trust them?" Braun whispered. "No," Alara replied honestly. "But right now we need allies." They entered a large storage chamber where coolant pipes hissed softly overhead. Standing in the center of the room was a tall, slender figure with translucent skin that rippled with shifting patterns of light. Velen Rai of the Tyrexans, a species renowned for their diplomatic cunning and near-photographic racial memory. "Admiral," Velen greeted, inclining his elongated head slightly. "You've taken a considerable risk coming here." "Less risk than submitting to Council demands," Alara countered. "Why did you signal me in the chamber? What do the Tyrexans want?" Valen's skin patterns shifted to a deep blue, an expression of seriousness in their culture. "To show you that humanity is not alone in recognizing the Council's true nature. You're not the first species to develop quantum displacement technology." Alara's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "The Aldebarans developed similar technology 3 millennia ago. The Proxima Coalition before them. Both civilizations mysteriously declined shortly after Council oversight was implemented." "Technology appropriation?" Alara asked, though she already suspected worse. "Deliberate suppression," Velen confirmed, his voice dropping lower. "The Council maintains power through technological disparity. The founding species, particularly the Uruvax and Mezcalin, control all major technological breakthroughs. Species that develop independent advances are neutralized." Meanwhile, deep beneath the Atacama Desert on Earth, Director Amara Okafor worked frantically in the underground quantum research facility. Dozens of scientists hurried around the massive chamber, transferring data, dismantling equipment, and preparing for evacuation. "Transfer complete on servers 7 through 15, reported Dr. Victor Rivera, his face illuminated by holographic displays. "The decoy data has been planted in the main systems. If the Council tries to access our research, they'll find exactly what they expect. Nothing more." Amara nodded, then activated the secure communication link to the presidential bunker. President Wells's face appeared immediately. "Madam President, Phase 1 is complete," Amara reported. "Research dispersal at 87%. "Good. The Council doesn't just want our technology," President Wells replied, her expression grave. According to our intelligence simulations, quantum displacement could revolutionize everything from resource extraction to military strategy. If humanity maintains exclusive development, we become a threat to the power structure, Amara finished. Exactly. How long until the facilities are clear? 4 hours for complete evacuation. The automated systems will maintain the appearance of normal operations for at least 72 hours after that. Across human space, a hidden protocol activated. Colonial governors received classified instructions. Military vessels changed course subtly. Resources began moving through secret channels established years ago, a contingency that few believed would ever be necessary. Back on the Council homeworld, Lieutenant Braun had separated from Admiral Voss to undertake his own critical mission. With the help of a sympathetic Verlar archivist, he infiltrated the Ancient Records Archive, a repository of Council history spanning thousands of years that was typically off-limits to non-founding species. "Here," whispered Trell. The Verlar archivist, his 4 eyes constantly scanning for security drones, the classified records on technological appropriation. Braun scanned the data quickly, his expression darkening as he absorbed the horrifying truth. The protective oversight imposed on developing civilizations had inevitably led to their stagnation and eventual absorption into the dominant Council powers. Technologies were not merely regulated but deliberately suppressed or stolen. Humanity isn't the target, he realized aloud. Our innovation is. The founding species fear any disruption to their dominance, Trell confirmed. They've maintained control for 15,000 years through this cycle. Identify promising species, allow limited development, then assert control when they reach a certain threshold. As the 24-hour deadline approached, a discovery shook the highest echelons of Earth Command. Deep space monitoring stations detected massive fleet movements at the edges of human territory, Council forces mobilizing not for sanctions, but for something far more aggressive. They're positioning for a strike, Admiral James Wilson reported from Earth Fleet Command. 3 battle groups converging on Sol, 2 more heading for our major colonies. This isn't an enforcement action, it's an invasion force. President Welles's expression hardened. They never expected compliance. They wanted a pretext. Protocol Exodus is at 60% completion, reported Defense Minister Garcia. We need at least 12 more hours before. We won't have 12 hours once I deliver our response, interrupted Admiral Voss, joining the secure call from the Council homeworld. Based on fleet movements, they've likely already decided to make an example of Earth. Then we change the game, President Wells decided. Admiral, proceed with Operation Unveiling. It's time the rest of the galaxy learned what we've discovered. In her quarters, Admiral Voss prepared for her return to the Council chamber. She checked the small device concealed in her palm, an advanced quantum transmitter that would bypass all Council security measures. Her communication unit chimed with an incoming message from Lieutenant Braun. "Ma'am, I've made contact with representatives from 23 minor species. They've received the technical packages and are standing by. The evidence is compelling. And their response? They want in. Whatever humanity is planning, they want to be part of it." Ilara allowed herself a grim smile. Then it's time to show the Council that the galaxy is changing, whether they approve or not. In the Grand Chamber, Admiral Voss arrived exactly at the appointed hour. The assembled delegates watched in anticipation as she took her position at the center. High Arbiter Caltix loomed over her, his staff of office clutched tightly. "Admiral Voss," he intoned formally, "you return to deliver Earth's response to the Council's directive." "Yes, High Arbiter," Ilara replied calmly. "But before I deliver our answer, there's something the full Council should see." She activated the device in her palm. Across the chamber, hidden quantum receivers activated in the possession of representatives from 23 minor species, civilizations that had chafed under Council restrictions for centuries. The chamber's main display system suddenly flickered, overridden by an outside signal. The delegates murmured in confusion as classified Council archives began to play before their eyes. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded Caltix, but for once the power in the chamber had shifted. "The truth," Ilara replied simply. "And humanity's response." Chaos erupted in the Grand Chamber as classified Council archives flickered across every display surface. The evidence was damning. internal directives authorizing the systematic suppression of emerging technologies from non-founding species over thousands of years. The chamber filled with the sound of translator devices struggling to keep up with the outraged cries of dozens of species. Order. I demand order. High Arbiter Caltix slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor, but the usual commanding effect was lost amid the tumult. Admiral Voss stood calmly at the center of the storm. Humanity isn't the first to discover quantum displacement, she declared, her voice somehow cutting through the chaos. We're just the first to recognize the pattern of what happens after such discoveries. The evidence continued to unfold across the chamber. Historical records showing how promising civilizations were infiltrated, their research stolen or destroyed, their economies deliberately destabilized if they resisted. Some had even faced manufactured conflicts or containment actions that decimated their populations. Caltix reached for the master control panel to shut down the presentation, but found the system unresponsive. Council security forces moved toward Admiral Voss, only to be blocked by representatives of the minor species who had positioned themselves strategically throughout the chamber. This session is now under the protection of the Alliance of Free Worlds, announced Velen Rai, rising from his seat as representatives from 23 species stood in solidarity with humanity. Meanwhile, across human space, the Council's hidden military initiative encountered unexpected resistance. The supposedly secret fleet approaching Earth's colonies discovered that humanity's quantum displacement technology was far more advanced than intelligence suggested. On the bridge of the Terran Defense Force flagship Intrepid, Fleet Admiral Wilson watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction as Council vessels appeared at the expected coordinates. All units, execute Operation Phantom, he ordered. Across the battlefield, human vessels shimmered and vanished completely, their quantum displacement drives activating in perfect synchronization. The Council fleet's targeting systems registered nothing but empty space where moments before 50 warships had been positioned. Multiple quantum signatures detected, called out a Council sensor officer aboard their command vessel. They're everywhere. Human ships appeared and disappeared at will, impossible to track or engage effectively. What had been planned as a swift show of force became a humiliating demonstration of Council military inadequacy as precision strikes disabled weapon systems and propulsion on vessel after vessel without causing a single casualty. On the resource world Titan 9, Council forces landing to seize crucial human mining operations found the A facilities completely abandoned. All personnel and equipment vanished without trace hours before their arrival. The facilities were fully operational until 6 hours ago, reported the Council commander. Thermal signatures, power consumption, communication traffic, all normal. Then everything just disappeared. Back in the Grand Chamber, the Council founding species faced a reckoning as centuries of manipulation were exposed. Minor species representatives demanded answers, their collective outrage building toward a diplomatic point of no return. The Council was founded to unite the galaxy, growled Representative Murax of the Kinesian worlds, a species whose technological renaissance was mysteriously stunted 3 centuries earlier, not to preserve the dominance of the founding races. Admiral Voss watched carefully as fractures formed in the Council's united front. Some founding members began distancing themselves from the most egregious actions. Others doubled down, claiming necessity and security concerns justified their interventions. Humanity came to the galactic community in good faith, Ilara stated calmly amid the growing discord. We shared our medical advancements, our unique approaches to environmental restoration, our art and culture. In return, we've discovered that we were never intended to be equals, only resources to be managed and eventually absorbed. Caltix made a desperate move, activating hidden protocols throughout the Council citadel. Security doors began sealing chambers. Automated defense systems powered up throughout the complex. But what the Council didn't realize was that Lieutenant Braun and his team had already infiltrated the security mainframe with the help of allied species. Security override successful, Braun reported from the control center beneath the citadel. All containment protocols neutralized. In the chamber, fields flickered and failed as Caltix attempted to isolate the delegates. The massive doors remained open when they should have sealed. The defense systems remained dormant. You believe you've outmaneuvered us? Caltix hissed at Alara, his composure finally breaking. But the Council has survived far greater challenges over 10,000 years. Even now our main fleet converges on your homeworld. Earth will serve as example to all who defy Council authority. Admiral Voss's communication device chimed with a message that brought a thin smile to her face. About that fleet. Arbiter Caltix. The central display changed to show a live feed from Earth space. The massive Council armada had indeed arrived, nearly 300 vessels surrounding the blue-green planet. But as the chamber watched, something unprecedented occurred. Earth itself began to shimmer, the entire planet flickering like a faulty hologram. "Impossible," whispered one of the Council scientists. No technology could possibly. The impossible happened. The image of Earth seemed to dissolve, revealing nothing but empty space where humanity's homeworld had been. The Council fleet commanders could be heard frantically ordering scans, launching probes, attempting to determine if this was some kind of massive illusion. It was not. Quantum displacement technology has applications beyond mere transportation, Admiral Voss explained to the stunned chamber. While you focused on how our ships could jump vast distances, you missed the true breakthrough. We've perfected large-scale displacement. You cannot have moved an entire planet, insisted Caltix, though doubt had crept into his voice. Not the planet, Alara clarified. Just everything on it that matters. Our people, our cities, our civilization. Throughout human space, the same scene repeated. Colony worlds appeared abandoned. Space stations stood empty but intact. Infrastructure was partially dismantled and removed. Humanity hadn't just escaped, they'd left nothing of strategic value. Behind, the Alliance of Free Worlds representatives watched with a mixture of awe and vindication as the most powerful military force in the galaxy realized it had mobilized against a phantom. The Council's attempt to make an example of humanity had instead showcased their own impotence. This changes nothing, Caltix attempted to assert, his voice lacking its earlier authority. Humanity remains bound by accession treaties. This disappearance constitutes the gravest violation of galactic law in millennia. His words rang hollow as more Council species began questioning their allegiance. The carefully maintained facade of benevolent leadership had cracked beyond repair. Lieutenant Braun, working with allied technicians, unlocked the Council's most classified archives, revealing that the founding species had been artificially maintaining their technological advantage by systematically suppressing others' development while secretly incorporating their innovations. The Council doesn't protect the galaxy, Velen Rai announced to the chamber. It preserves inequality. Admiral Voss stepped forward, her expression resolute. Earth hereby withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We will establish no formal diplomatic channels until significant reforms are implemented and verified. Any aggression against former human territories or allies will be considered an act of war. As she turned to leave, representatives from 17 minor species rose and followed her from the chamber, the beginning of a diplomatic revolution that would reshape galactic politics forever. Where has humanity gone? Demanded Caltix, his composure finally breaking completely. Admiral Voss paused at the chamber entrance and looked back at the crumbling power structure. Somewhere you'll never find us, she replied, but rest assured we'll be watching. As the human delegation and their new allies departed the Citadel, news of what had transpired spread rapidly across the galaxy. Despite Council attempts at information control, the message was clear. The era of unchallenged Council authority had ended, and somewhere in distant space humanity began rebuilding. The Council's main battle fleet hung in Earth orbit, their massive vessels arrayed in perfect formation to showcase overwhelming force. Admiral Jex Toril, Supreme Commander of Council forces, stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion, his forearms crossed behind his back as he stared at the view screen displaying the blue-green planet below. Final scan report, Commander? He asked his second-in-command. Commander Vrek approached with a data pad, his scaled skin reflecting the bridge lights. Confirmed empty, Admiral. No human life signs anywhere on the planet or in the orbital facilities. Automated systems are maintaining planetary ecosystems, but every city, every settlement, abandoned. Impossible, Jexitoral muttered. 11 billion humans cannot simply vanish. Yet they had. Earth's entire population, All 11 billion humans had disappeared, leaving behind only empty structures and environmental maintenance systems. The same pattern repeated at every human colony and outpost throughout Council space. On the Council homeworld, the emergency session continued into its third day. The chamber, once a model of order and protocol, had devolved into factions arguing bitterly while High Arbiter Galactic struggled to maintain control. The human quantum displacement technology cannot possibly have advanced to this degree, insisted Science Minister Zoltev of the Urovax. Our theoretical model suggested at least 3 centuries of development would be required for large-scale displacements. Your theoretical models were wrong, countered Velen Rai of the Tyrexans. Just as the Council has been wrong about many things. The door to the chamber slid open and Admiral Ilara Voss entered. Though no longer Earth's official representative, the Council had requested her presence. All debate ceased as she walked to the center of the chamber. Admiral Voss, Caltix addressed her, his voice lacking its usual authority. The Council demands to know where humanity has relocated. Ilara's expression remained neutral. That information is classified. You cannot simply withdraw billions of beings from Council space without explanation, insisted Delegate Oru. The gaseous entity pulsing with agitation within its containment suit, the economic disruption alone, is precisely what you intended to inflict on us, Ilara cut in. The difference is that we chose our fate, rather than having it forced upon us. In the massive constructed habitat system now housing humanity, Director Amara Okafor stood before the central control hub of New Terra Prime. Holograms displayed the status of the interconnected stations and habitats that stretched across the star system, a marvel of engineering that had been secretly under construction for decades. Final population transfer report requested. Amara, her assistant, Dr. Rivera, consulted his datapad. 98% complete. The remaining 2% are special cases, research outposts, deep cover agents, and volunteers who stayed behind to maintain the appearance of normal operations as long as possible. Amara nodded, watching as another habitat section came online, its life support systems adjusting to accommodate the newest wave of evacuees. We knew this day might come, she told the gathered team of engineers and administrators. The question now is what humanity becomes without Council constraints. The quantum displacement technology that had enabled humanity's exodus was merely the beginning. Without the artificial restrictions imposed by Council oversight, human innovation had accelerated dramatically. Advances in energy generation, materials science, and artificial gravity had already transformed life in the new settlement. Back in Council space, the diplomatic crisis deepened. 26 minor species had formally severed ties with the Council, declaring their allegiance to the newly formed Alliance of Free Worlds. Economic systems that had functioned for millennia began to fracture as vital resources and trade routes shifted allegiance. The Council founding species met in closed session, their debate growing increasingly heated. We must locate the human settlements and force their return, insisted Representative Drav of the Mezcalan hegemony. This precedent cannot stand. With what fleet? Countered Elder Tees of the Vospiri Collective. Our initial military action was completely neutralized. Half our battle groups are still undergoing repairs. Then we must negotiate, suggested Representative Ilura of the Gaian Communion, the most moderate of the founding species. Offer concessions in exchange for their return. Concessions? Drav nearly shouted. For 15,000 years we have guided lesser species toward gradual advancement. Without our oversight, technological development will accelerate uncontrollably. We have seen the result of such unchecked progress before. Elder Tiz's expression darkened. You speak of the Harbingers. The chamber fell silent at the mention of the ancient threat. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Braun led a covert mission back into Council space. Working with allies from the defecting species, his team infiltrated the most secure archive in the galaxy, the Vault of Final Records, buried beneath the Council citadel. These records predate the Council itself, whispered Trell, the Verlar archivist who had chosen exile with the human delegation. Few even among the founding species have access. Braun carefully placed quantum decryptors on the ancient security systems. If our theory is correct, the real reason for the Council's technological suppression policies should be here. The vault's massive door slid open silently, revealing a chamber filled with artifacts and data storage devices so old they were barely recognizable as technology. At the center stood a crystalline pillar that pulsed with inner light. The first archive, Trell breathed in awe, created before the founding of the Council. As they accessed the ancient records, a terrifying truth emerged. The Council hadn't been formed as a cooperative government as claimed in official history, but as a defense mechanism against an ancient threat, a species so technologically advanced they had nearly eradicated all other intelligent life in the galaxy 20,000 years ago. The Harbingers, Brown read from the translation, a species that evolved toward perfect technological efficiency, eventually merging with their own creations. They considered all other life forms inefficient and unnecessary. This explains everything, Trell realized. The Council's fear of rapid technological advancement, the suppression policies. They weren't just maintaining their power, Braun concluded. They were preventing any species from developing technology that might attract the Harbinger's attention again. Their discovery was interrupted by a security alert. Council forces had detected their intrusion. As they rushed to escape with the critical data, Trell was hit by a stun blast. Braun hesitated, unwilling to leave his ally. Go, Trell insisted, pushing the data crystal into Braun's hand. The truth is more important than one life. Back at the Alliance headquarters, Admiral Voss received Braun's transmission with grave concern. If the Harbinger threat was real, humanity's decision to break from the Council took on new dimensions. We need to confirm this information, she told President Wells via secure quantum link. If true, we may need to reconsider our approach, or accelerate it, the President countered. If the Council's response to this threat was stagnation and control, perhaps a different strategy is needed. Innovation rather than suppression. Before they could discuss further, an alert sounded. Long-range sensors had detected unusual activity at the edge of former human space, energy signatures that matched no known species. On the view screen, a massive vessel of unfamiliar design appeared, its surface shifting and reconfiguring continuously like a living thing. It broadcast no identification signal, responded to no hails. Unknown vessel approaching former Earth space, reported the sensor officer, her voice tense. Configuration matches no known design in Alliance or Council records. Admiral Voss straightened, a chill running down her spine as she realized the implications. Send an encrypted alert to all Alliance worlds, she ordered, and open a channel to the Council. Priority Alpha. The galaxy faced a new reality. The Harbingers had returned, drawn perhaps by the very disruption humanity had caused in the galactic order. And now, the divided civilizations of the Milky Way would have to decide whether to face this ancient threat together or continue their bitter division. As the mysterious vessel approached, Admiral Voss made her decision. Prepare a diplomatic shuttle, she ordered. I'm returning to Council space. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance. The diplomatic shuttle carrying Admiral Ilara Voss docked with the Council station amid tight security. One standard galactic year had passed since humanity's exodus, and the political landscape of the Milky Way had transformed dramatically. The Galactic Council, once the unchallenged authority across civilized space, now controlled barely 40% of its former territory as member species, continued to defect to the rapidly growing Alliance of Free Worlds. Ilara was escorted through corridors that seemed emptier than she remembered. Many diplomatic missions had withdrawn their staff, following the schism. The remaining representatives watched her pass with a mixture of curiosity and resentment. The Grand Chamber itself had changed. Where once 500 species had been represented, now fewer than 200 seats were filled. At the center, a new council table had been installed, circular rather than hierarchical, with representatives from all remaining species given equal positions. High Arbiter Caltix had been removed from power, replaced by a coalition leadership that included representatives from all member species. The archives had been opened, revealing the full extent of past manipulations and suppressions. As Ilara took her position at the speaker's platform, she noted the faces of the new leadership council. Some were openly hostile, others cautiously receptive. Admiral Voss greeted moderator Illura of the Gaian Communion, who now led the reformed council. You return to us at a precarious time. The division between our civilizations has weakened the galaxy when unity is most needed. That is why I have come, Ilara replied. The threat we face transcends our political differences. The chamber darkened as Ilara activated a holographic display showing the mysterious vessel that had appeared at the edge of former human space. Its strange shifting configuration played out in slow motion as the delegates watched with growing unease. 3 days ago, this vessel appeared near the former human colony of Proxima II, she explained. It matches descriptions found in the first archive, the ancient records predating the council itself, rumors spread through the chamber as the implications became clear. The harbingers have returned, stated Ilara plainly, and we believe they were drawn by the recent disruption in the galactic order, disruption that humanity precipitated. Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime, the massive artificial world system that now housed humanity and their allies, Lieutenant Braun supervised the integration of former council scientists who had defected to the Alliance. Among them was Trell, the Verlar archivist who had survived his capture and eventually escaped to Alliance space. The Quantum Gateway is ahead of schedule, Trell reported, reviewing the schematics for the Alliance's most ambitious project. With the combined knowledge of 32 species working without restrictions, we've achieved in months what would have taken decades under Council oversight. Braun nodded, watching as the massive structure took shape in the shipyard viewport. The gateway, large enough for capital ships to pass through, represented the Alliance's answer to the Harbinger threat. Not defense, but escape. Director Okafor believes we can have it operational within 60 days. Trell continued. The power requirements are enormous, but the new fusion catalyst developed by the Tiraxan engineers have increased efficiency by 300%. And the destination coordinates? Braun asked. The Andromeda Galaxy, far enough to be beyond Harbinger influence, yet close enough to reach with a single jump. In the council chamber, the debate had grown heated as Ilara proposed an unprecedented alliance between the fractured civilizations. The council was originally formed to protect the galaxy from the Harbingers, she reminded them. That purpose was lost over millennia as protection became control. Now we face the very threat your ancestors feared. And you believe your alliance has the answer? Asked Representative Drav skeptically. Not alone, Ilara admitted. But together we might. The alliance has developed technologies that even the council deemed impossible a year ago. Your civilization has knowledge and experience spanning 15,000 years. Apart we are vulnerable. Together we have a chance. On the borders between alliance and council space, tensions remained high, despite diplomatic overtures from both sides. Military vessels patrolled established neutrality zones, while intelligence operations continued in the shadows. Aboard the Alliance defense platform Guardian 7, Admiral Wilson received an urgent transmission from deep space monitoring stations. 3 more Harbinger vessels had been detected, approaching from different vectors. They're testing our response capabilities, Wilson realized. Probing for weaknesses, he immediately ordered alerts to both Alliance and Council commands. The threat was escalating faster than anyone had anticipated. Director Okafor presented a radical proposal to the Alliance leadership gathered on Nexus Prime, a technological sharing initiative that would distribute advancements equally among all member species, preventing the power imbalances that corrupted the Council. The difference between us and them, she argued, must be more than who holds power. It must be how we wield it. As she spoke, emergency alerts sounded throughout the chamber. The first Harbinger vessel had activated some kind of scanning technology, targeting both Council and Alliance worlds systematically. The scan penetrated all known defenses, mapping entire planetary systems in seconds. They were being cataloged. In the Council chamber, the emergency reports interrupted Ilara's presentation. As the delegates absorbed the implications, a surprise visitor entered, President Diana Wells herself, having traveled secretly to Council space at great personal risk. Moderator Ilara, she addressed the Council leader directly. Time grows short. I come with full authority to negotiate an immediate alliance against this common threat. The gesture was not lost on the Council representatives. For humanity's leader to place herself within Council jurisdiction, after all that had occurred, represented either extraordinary courage or desperate necessity, perhaps both. What do you propose, President Wells? Asked Ilara. A complete exchange of technology and knowledge. No restrictions, no reservations. Everything the Alliance has developed since our departure, including quantum displacement technology. In return, we need access to the complete historical records of the previous Harbinger incursion. The chamber erupted in both support and protest at the proposal. Such an exchange would forever alter the balance of power in the galaxy, regardless of the outcome with the Harbingers. As the debate raged, Lieutenant Braun made an unexpected discovery while analyzing the Harbinger scan patterns. They're not just mapping our worlds, he realized. They're searching for something specific. Working with scientists from both Council and Alliance species, he identified a pattern in the scan targets. The Harbingers were focusing on worlds with certain rare mineral compositions, the same materials used in quantum displacement technology. They're not here to eradicate us, Braun reported to the Joint Command. They're hunting for technology similar to their own. This revelation changed everything. If the Harbingers considered quantum technology their exclusive domain, then humanity's greatest achievement was also the trigger for their return. In a desperate gamble, Admiral Voss proposed a radical strategy. Using the combined resources of Council and Alliance worlds, they would accelerate construction of the quantum gateway, while simultaneously preparing a special welcome for their unwanted visitors. We need to show them something they don't expect, she explained. Not resistance, not submission, but innovation they haven't considered. The plan was dangerous, requiring perfect coordination between formerly hostile powers and technology that existed only in theoretical models. But as the Harbinger vessels continued their methodical advance toward the core worlds, options dwindled. On the quantum gateway construction site, human engineers worked alongside Council specialists. Combining centuries of theoretical knowledge with humanity's practical innovation, the gateway expanded, its design evolving beyond the original specifications as new insights emerged from the collaboration. It was never about controlling technology, realized moderator Illura as she observed the joint teams at work. It was about guiding its application. We forgot that distinction over the millennia. President Wells nodded in agreement, and we were too quick to assume malicious intent rather than misguided protection. Perhaps both our approaches were flawed. As the Harbinger fleet approached the decisive engagement point, the combined Council-Alliance forces implemented their desperate strategy. Instead of conventional defenses, they deployed a network of quantum displacement devices throughout the projected battlefield. They expect us to fight conventionally or flee, Admiral Voss explained to the Joint Command. Instead, we'll show them that this galaxy has evolved beyond their understanding. The lead Harbinger vessel entered the target zone, its massive form distorting space around it. Before it could react, the quantum network activated, not targeting the vessel itself but the space-time around it. For a moment, reality itself seemed to bend and fold. When stability returned, the Harbinger vessel remained, but something had fundamentally changed. The ship's continuous reconfiguration had stopped, its surface now static and unresponsive.